Hey sketchy friends, so in today's video I'm going to be making an abstract background and I'm going to use these Ecoline liquid watercolours. I've had them for years and years and years and I don't really ever use them, to be honest with you, but now and again I find a little use for them. They're really bright, they're really beautiful and bright, and they're really fun for making abstract backgrounds with. So it's one of my favorite things to do, is just make a crazy background and then sketch on top. I've done a lot of urban sketching using that method, so I'll share some of those sketches with you in a minute. So I'm going to take the green and just use the dropper. You can put this into a palette and apply it in a different way, but I'm just using the dropper. I think it's fun. So I sprayed the surface of the paper very lightly with a water spritzer, and I'm just putting this green on, just trying to make interesting marks, although I have completely gone off the page there and got green all over my desk. But as you can see, my desk is really dirty anyway. So it's not dirty, it's just stained with paint, but mainly tattoo ink, which really, if anyone has dabbled with tattoo ink, it really doesn't come off. So that is mainly why my desk has now got this kind of weird grey haze on it. And I'm just using a mop brush just to splatter some extra clean water on there, just to move that green around. This is just really fun to do. It's just super playful, just making a mess. You remember when you were a kid and you used to kind of blow paint around with a straw? It's that kind of vibe. It's just super fun. I haven't selected a photo to draw at this stage. I don't have anything in mind other than I wanted to use the green and the yellow. I do think it's important to keep a limited palette when it comes to doing this kind of thing, because it can get out of hand pretty quickly. But I have discovered I really do like the grey as well, and how it moves some of the pigments around. And because it's quite a neutral colour, I think it's okay to add it in with the yellow and the green, and it kind of settles a few areas down a bit. So I think it's nice to have some vibrant areas, but then it's also nice to have some neutral, subtle areas just to kind of tone things down a bit. I also think with this kind of thing, I've learnt over time that leaving a healthy dose of white space is also a really good idea. Again, it just offsets the craziness that is in the other areas. This also works really well with using less vibrant colours. So if you do want to start off with this kind of technique, I do recommend using much subtler colours, less vibrant, crazy colours. And if you guys are interested in all of the nuances of this kind of crazy technique, then I do have a full online course on this particular technique, and all of it is filmed on location. Aside from me making backgrounds like this, and I use different mediums and different colours and explain what works and what doesn't work, but all of the actual sketches are done on location, so you can see how I actually use this technique out in the field. So if that's something you're interested in, please do check out the link below, and there'll be a special discount code there as well. So whilst I'm waiting for that paint to dry, I just wanted to show you some of the other sketches that I have done. So this is actually from the course, and this one is my back garden. This one was done outside of Monte Casino. It's a casino created in an Italian style. We actually sketch there every single week because it is quite a fun, crazy place to draw. So I have a little sketching group that meet up there, and I really like how this one came out. This is inside Monte Casino. You're going to see a theme here. I mention Monte Casino a lot because it's basically the place that I sketch the most. Again, because we have that weekly sketch meetup. So this is another one from Monte Casino, and I'm using all different kinds of techniques and different colours in the background. And through so much experimentation, I've just sort of figured out what kind of works, or not what kind of works. I figured out what works and what doesn't so much, so I can point you in the right direction. Whilst this is a very abstract technique, I can point you in the right direction of what does work and what doesn't work, and also how to then draw on top of the paint. So obviously we can't use a pencil and then ink and then erase the pencil because we've already got this paint down on the page, but there are ways and means around this, such as what I'm doing right here, which is just mapping in a few bits, just roughly, just so I know where certain key elements of the building is going to go. And that just really helps me. And I know that the watercolour pencil will kind of dissolve behind the paint. And I know that the watercolour pencil, if I do add any more paint on top of this, will kind of dissolve. I'm not sure yet if I will add any more paint on top of this. I might add colour in a different way. This is such an organic process and it's just really, really fun. And the fact that you already have paint on the page and there's some kind of background, psychologically, it just loosens you up a bit more. You just don't worry so much about your drawing because there's already stuff on the page and you can kind of respond to the things on the page. So one of my favourite things to do is actually to stop drawing when the paint ends. So I don't do that on every sketch, but on some sketches it really works. And I did this one literally just 2 days ago, again at Monte Cassino, and I really enjoyed just responding to the marks that were already on the page. Most of the time I do these backgrounds and I'll do like 3 or 4 of them at a time in my sketchbook, and then when I'm out on location and I see what's in front of me, that's when I decide which background to use, because one of them undoubtedly just stands out to me more than the rest. But I cover all of that in the course as well. So this course has been out probably for like a year or so, but I'm just not very good at talking about it. So finally I'm getting around to talking about it. But I have had a lot of great feedback from existing students on it. And yeah, it's just a really fun, just let loose kind of style for your urban sketching, or even sketching at home from photos. That's fine too. There's no right or wrong. If you do want to go out on location and use this particular technique, it's a really, really fun one to do. So I have chosen this building in New Zealand, which I did sketch on location whilst I was in Oamaru on the South Island. One of my favourite places I visited. I could just spend 2 weeks there sketching all of the beautiful buildings. I wasn't particularly happy with the sketch that I did on location because I feel like I made some, I don't want to say mistakes, because again, it's all subjective really, and it's whatever comes out at the time is what comes out at the time, and that, that's just responding to your surroundings on location. So there's no right or wrong to that. But I just felt like I could have done a better job of it, and I was just keen to sketch it again. Let's just put it that way. So I am trying to pay attention to some of the things that I got wrong, and I'm putting that in air quotations, and just trying to get it a bit better this time. But again, this is kind of a wild sketch to start with anyway because of the background. So if I don't get some of the details right, I'm not going to sweat it, It's just a really fun building to draw. I really enjoy drawing buildings just front on like this. It's just, you don't have to worry about perspective too much, and you don't have to worry about any of the surroundings. And it's just really fun to just focus on the building itself. So especially if you are a beginner to urban sketching, I do recommend when you're on location, if there's the possibility of sitting directly front onto a building and just focusing on one building, this is going to be a much better strategy for you than just trying to draw whatever's in front of you, or an entire street scene or an entire cafe interior. That's just far too overwhelming. So if you do live somewhere where you have buildings that you can sit directly in front of, then I highly recommend it. But, if you're not at that stage of going out on location yet, also photographs as well of buildings directly from the front is a great place to start, because then you can just concentrate on all the architectural details. You can try and get the proportions right, and you can just have a lot of fun with it, and also learning how to simplify ornate architectural details as well, which I did post a video on my Patreon about the other day, going into a bit more detail about that. So if you're interested in learning more with me, or along with me, or experimenting along with me, then please do also consider checking out Patreon. I've got an absolute ton of demos over there, a year and a half's worth, and I'm always adding more, and I'm always trying to push forward and push in different directions and explore different things, but also respond to what my Patreon members want as well. We do also have a live event coming up there next weekend as well. So if that's something you're interested in, then please head over to Patreon and consider joining if that's possible for you. So I think in one of the subtitles earlier, I said this is a Lamy Safari fountain pen. It's got an extra fine nib, and it is filled with platinum carbon ink, which is the ink that I always use. And not picking up this fountain pen for any real reason other than it's one that is filled with ink right now and that is working. I did consider using my Fude pen, which is a fountain pen with a bent nib, which does allow you to get different line width variations depending on what angle you use the pen. However, I realised that it had run out of ink, and even though it probably would have taken me 2 minutes to fill it, I just wanted to get on with it, so I just picked up the nearest one that does work. But I have had this pen forever. It's the first ever fountain pen I bought, and I must have had it for, I don't know, maybe, yeah, almost 10 years, maybe like 8, I don't know. But yeah, really great pen. I kind of go through phases. Sometimes I really like it, sometimes I really don't like it, but I'm obviously going through a phase where I do really like it at the moment. Really comfy to draw with, and yeah, you can't really go wrong with this pen. It's a really good price as well. I feel like even though it's got an extra fine nib on it, it's still quite thick for something that is called extra fine. It's still surprisingly thick, in my opinion, but some people enjoy drawing with much thicker nibs, like the medium one, which comes as standard, or even the broad nib as well. So anyway, I hovered over whether to include the car in the front, but I was like, you know, I'm going to do it. I want to stay true-ish to the photograph, and I think it's a fun extra element. Plus, I can't see what the bottom of the building looks like behind the car, so I would be kind of making it up, which didn't quite feel right. So luckily it was a Prius, I think this is a Prius, which has quite a basic shape to it and a nice easy shape to draw. And it was, again, completely side profile onto me, so no difficult perspective or anything to deal with. So yeah, it was pretty easy just to include that vehicle there. And now I'm going in with my black brush pen. I find that heavy areas of black on this kind of crazy background really helps draw the eye around. Something that I know but was really emphasised to me when I was attending Eleanor Doughty's workshop in Auckland for the symposium is that you know, your heavy areas of black are going to become your focal points, and they're really going to draw the eye in. So you kind of have to be careful about where you put really big areas of black in. And it's something I may have forgotten when I sort of coloured in that underside of the archway on the left building. I was like, that's quite a large area of black, so that might draw the eye over to that part of the picture. So yeah, I just had that in mind basically whilst I was adding areas of black. And I was also thinking, I started filling in lots of bits black, and then I was thinking again about the paint strokes and the background and how the black areas or any areas of additional colour could interact with the paint strokes. So I'll point it out a bit more in a couple of minutes where it becomes a bit more obvious where I'm doing this. So I didn't really have an ideal colour for the window frames that I wanted to use, so I was kind of casting my eye around for anything that was vaguely the browny red, or no, sort of the maroony red that I could see in the photograph. So I eventually decided on this watercolour pencil because it was like the closest thing I had to the colour that I wanted. So now I've got a Pitt Artist pen, a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen, and I wanted to put the other panes of the windows where I haven't done them black, I wanted to make them grey. Then I was like, wouldn't it be interesting to kind of respond to the paint marks in the background and only fill in the white areas around the paint? So, you know, I thought there was no harm in trying this first, because then I can, if I don't like how it looks, then I can just continue filling things in grey. You know, if there's ever an opportunity to experiment like that, just take it, just see what it looks like. And then if you're like, I'm not really sure about it, then at least you can then carry on and fill things in. Little touches like that can really make your sketch quite unique, and it just, I don't know, just creates a way for you to do something a bit more interesting with your sketch rather than perhaps the expected. So it's quite a fun way to experiment. Now, I know this kind of thing's probably not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I really enjoy this style. And it's something that I just, especially on location, I just find it really fun. And I feel like it takes the need away for being precise in any way, and that you can just kind of even just draw things like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but like when I'm doing an interior scene especially, I can just play with placements of things and stuff, because as long as the elements are there, it's almost like the background hangs things together. So if they're not quite in perspective or whatever, it doesn't quite matter. And again, I've been looking at like Inma Serrano's work a lot. Now I have her book, Seville, from top to bottom. I love looking at her work so much and just studying like how elements overlap, and there's just so much atmosphere, and it doesn't really matter if things aren't in perspective or quite placed right on the page to indicate where they would be in the interior scene or whatever. It's just a really free way of sketching, and it's just something that I really enjoy trying to put into practice, trying to get rid of that logical brain that wants me to do like a realistic-ish looking sketch, and actually being like, do you know what, it doesn't matter, because you're trying to access that part of your creativity that you're still representing the scene, but it doesn't have to look exactly literal to what you're seeing. And it's taken me a really, really long time to understand even what that is, you know, like not literally representing the scene in front of me. And that there's nothing wrong with that. And I really enjoy that. And if you've watched my New Zealand sketchbook tour video, most of that is me just trying to represent exactly what's in front of me, because I also find that really fun. But I think it's definitely worthwhile exploring this other part of sketching, especially if you like, you know, if you like what you're seeing right now, and if you like work like Inma Serrano, Maru Godas, Marina Grechnik, like a whole, you know, Eleanor Doughty, Jenny Adam. There's just, yeah, a whole bunch of people I could mention there. But especially if you like that more freeform, colourful, not quite sticking to reality kind of stuff, then I think this is a great gateway. I think this is an easy way to get into that. So by having like a abstract background to even start with, it already kind of detaches you from being literal. So I hope that makes sense. And I'm just really excited to share this with you. I've been sitting on this for so long now. I've been sharing my sketches that I do over on Instagram, so please do remember to go and check out my Instagram channel, which is my Instagram profile, which is Taria's_sketchy_adventures, because I'm always sharing every urban sketch I do. Basically, I share there. So if that's something you're interested in, then please do go check it out. So yeah, I've been sharing these kinds of sketches for so long, but I realized I haven't shared anything on YouTube with you guys. I have shared a few bits and bobs with Patreon members. And as I said, yeah, I've got this whole online course, which I'm really proud of, and I just never talk about. So I do hope you guys will at least go and check it out and just see what the different modules are, and just see whether it looks like it's something for you. But if you're someone who really wants to sketch more creatively and less literally, but are struggling to even know where to start, I really do think this is a great technique. So I do think you'll get a lot from the course. And again, I am offering a special discount at the moment as well. So in some areas you can see now I'm continuing to fill bits in grey, because I didn't feel like stopping where the brush marks was quite working. And it is a case of just stepping back really and sort of thinking about it and then trying things. And not everything you try will always work out, but that's okay. You're creating art, you're being creative on the page. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not going to sell this. I'm not going to put it on the wall. I'm just having an hour to myself where I just play with my materials and look at a picture and just explore. And that's okay. That's all that needs to happen. You just need to take that pressure off yourself that every sketch you do, every hour you spend sketching, it all has to be worth it, because it all has to be perfect, because blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just let it go and just have fun. That's literally what this is all about. So I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I hope you enjoy the crazy background. I really hope you go and check out that course. Link is in the description below. And I really hope you have an awesome week ahead. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Or if you want a more direct response from me, it's probably better to email me, taria@urbansketchingworld.com. Thanks guys, and I'll see you in the next video.